I wanted to do what nobody else has done in explaining ISO. Of course, everybody needs to study on their own the distinction between causation and correlation. There's only 3 slots here. The last 2 slots are all manual exposure. This is 100% undeniable with any digital camera. The only way that you could come outside of this parameter is if you used excessive exposure compensation. So, on the first level, or the top tier here, we're looking at 3 different scenarios. Either program, i.e. completely automatic, which most people are not shooting in, at least I hope not, aperture priority, or shutter priority. It doesn't matter which one of these 3 that you're using, but these 3 encompass about 99.99% of everybody's professional cameras, whether that be, a cheap camera, something with a detachable lens, right? And it encompasses all of photography, essentially. I do a lot of manual exposure photography, but I'm just saying it's basically 100%. You have a direct chain of causation here. The last 2 are all manual exposure, so let's take a look at the last 2. Both of these are the exact same shutter time. Both of these are the exact same aperture. One of them is ISO 100, and the other one is ISO 1600. Could be 3200. Over here on the right, we actually have 3 different little charts. The signal, of course, is the yellow hump, and the noise, of course, is the jagged line. The vertical is the amplitude, the horizontal is the frequency. The only point being that you need to get out of this is everything is SNR. Let me repeat that twice more. Everything is signal-to-noise ratio. Everything is signal-to-noise ratio. Here you see the signal peaking above the noise. There's something here to work with where you can extract information from the shadows. If we're looking at a histogram, we're only looking at, in this little box that I created, only the shadow SNR, signal-to-noise ratio, right? You'll see that both of these on ISO 100 and ISO 1600 have the signal peaking at the same amplitude above the noise. The same. It's because ISO is not connected to exposure. No, it's not. No. Digital photography ISO is applied gain after the shot's already been captured. So both of these are identical. Both same shutter speed, both the same aperture, but radically different ISOs. It could be, like I said, 3200 or even 6400. Yeah? There's no distinction here. Both of these manual shots, you got the same signal peaking above the noise. Now, in the top one here, which is where it's important, is 100% direct causation. Let me repeat that again. 100% undeniable direct causation. A leads to B leads to C. Whether you're shooting program or completely auto or aperture priority, which is what I'm doing most of the time, same as you probably, or shutter priority, there is direct A to B to C causation here. You set an unnecessarily high ISO. Let's say it's outdoors and it should be ISO 100, but you left it on ISO 400 or 800. Let's say it's indoors and you could get away with handheld shots at ISO 1600, but you cranked it up to ISO 12,800. Perfect example. Okay, unnecessary high ISO leads to, depending on whether it's aperture priority or shutter priority, or completely automatic, leads to unnecessary small aperture or unnecessarily short shutter time. Let's take a look here on the right, amplitude being our vertical, frequency being our horizontal. Here you see that the signal doesn't really get above the noise. Here we actually have a problem extracting sufficient information from the shadows. Highlights, of course, are going to be equally affected, but there's obviously enough information there if I showed that part of the histogram. Yeah, frequency, amplitude, signal, the SNR, the shadow SNR here is really bad. It's not really reaching above the noise. There's something specific about this. I don't want to get too technical. Where noise actually has set frequencies. There's 4 types of noise, and algorithms actually are able to eliminate out a lot of noise, and that's the beauty of signal processing in your camera. However, your computer and advanced applications do this better. The point being is that the shadow SNR and everything in digital photography is signal-to-noise ratio is bad. It's no good. So anytime, and this is undeniable, unless you crank the exposure compensation wheel, like +3 or, we're not talking about that. 100% of the time, program, aperture priority, or shutter priority, unnecessarily high ISO is direct causation A to B to C and bad shadow SNR 100% of the time. So, can we accurately state correlation versus causation? Can we accurately state that unnecessarily high ISO and program or aperture priority or shutter priority, which comprises just shy of 100% of most photography? Yes, high ISO does cause noise. Direct, undeniable causation. 100% undeniable, period. End of story. And please remember, everything is about SNR. This is the reason why ETTR, or sensor saturation, is so important. And what I've said, I'm the first person to state it this way, is that you should saturate in your camera. I'm not talking about clipping highlights. You should saturate in your camera and expose in your computer. This has nothing to do with lighting ratios. You still need to get your lighting ratios correct, but saturate in your camera and expose in your computer. And of course, superficially, people don't understand that. Well, of course my camera is about exposure. No, more information, always better. More information, always, always, always. 100% of the time is better. But not so much information that you're ruining the details in your highlights. I'm not talking about clipping highlights. I'm talking about sensor saturation. Yes? Then you have to talk about dynamic range compression by adding like subject illumination, for example, like a backlit subject. I have to talk about that, but we don't want to go that deep. Okay? The top bar here of the three is undeniable 100% direct causation. High ISO does lead to bad shadow SNR, or what we call NOISE! Sorry about that. I did that for dramatic effect. Yes, high ISO does cause noise. 99.99% of the time. Period. End of story. I think I simplified it better and more elegantly than anybody else on YouTube. Actually, I don't think I did. I know I did. I know I did. Thank you so much. Bye.